Hi, this is WD0HCO, and I'm auctioning off my Hallicrafters SX140, and I thought I'd make this little video and show you how we operate it, or how it's the proper operation. So let's quickly take a look at it. Over here is the power switch, so we'll stick it on standby, and we just turned it on. And we'll let it sit there and warm up. And while she's warming up, we'll tell you what some of the functions and some of the controls are. First, we have the antenna trim, which trims up the antenna and peaks up the signal. And then we have the calibration setup, which will calibrate it. Function switch, which turns it on. 3 positions: standby, amplitude modulation, and CW sideband. We have a phone jack, and a band switch, which is your standard non-work bands, 80, 40, 20, 15, 10, and 6. Next we have a switch, Next we have a switch that turns on the calibrator, and there is a crystal in the back, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. An RF gain control, automatic noise limiter, a selectivity and VFO control. This particular receiver uses a regeneration detector. It's an envelope it's a product detector, but it also has the capability of regenerating it. So it gets away from using mechanical filters and ceramic filters and that kind of thing, and just by pure regeneration will control the selectivity. And lastly, it's the audio gain. So these three controls all interact together, and there's a way of using them, and depending on the mode that you select, and of course the main tuning knob. So let's decide that we're going to go ahead and operate on AM. What will you do is switch the standby mode to AM. So we do that, and 80 meters, because there's a lot of AM activity on 80 meters, and we'll tune the dial, find an 80 meter station. Okay, there's one. But before we do that, you will notice that there is some electrical noise on 80 meters, which is pretty typical during the daytime, because the local time is about 11 o'clock now. 11 o'clock in the morning. So you can hit the automatic noise limiter and you can get rid of that static. So that's with it turned off, and that's with it turned on. So the automatic noise limiter on this receiver does work quite nicely. Next, you have to turn the RF gain full up. The selectivity, the VFO selectivity, has to go down all the way to counterclockwise, is how they call it. And this does affect the AVC, automatic volume control circuit. And then to adjust the speaker control, you can adjust the audio gain up or down to your comfort. The speaker we're using is an Allied Communications model A2514. That's a speaker I got off the closet. I've got a couple of them. That's not included in the auction, but any speaker, any 8 ohm speaker will do. Alright, so now we're going to tune to AM. So let's go ahead and see if we can find one. There you go. So the first thing we do is we trim it up.
Oh, well, let's see. I guess that's about all I've got here. I'm going to get out of here, and I've only had one burrito with some salsa on it.
Turn the audio.
Maybe go get me a little bowl of cereal, get some milk down on this brother. Nobody can survive for a while.
And full RF gain.
I've got to have that burrito every morning with some hot salsa.
Remember, the selectivity has to be full counterclockwise. Now if you can go full clockwise, you will drive up the detector, but a lot of times when the signal is very strong, you will overload the detector. So always for AM, counterclockwise, turn it back. Let me see if there's any more. course, that's a single sideband station, so we'll tune that in next. So once again, full RF gain, counterclockwise on the BFO, and adjust the audio gain for best control. Now, take a look at the signal level. At this mode, on the AM mode, you do have an ABC circuit is switched in to the receiver. These guys are fairly weak. I'm only using, I think, a 20-foot antenna, and I think one of these guys is actually in Lubbock, Texas somewhere. That's pretty far away. On 80 meters, propagation is not that great. Ground wave is probably about the best thing that you can do. But let's go on sideband. So we go to the function and switch over to sideband. Now you notice the meter swung clear across here to the 90 dB over S9. Well, basically it's telling you that the ABC circuit has been switched off. Now, you reduce the RF gain full out, adjust the VFO clockwise, full clockwise position. Notice, let me turn up the gain. You hear? It starts oscillating. Now we're going to look for sideband stations. Now, sideband stations have no ABC, so it's easy to overload the receiver like that. Notice that the receiver is overloaded, so what you have to do, turn down the gain and use the RF gain control as the volume control. Now again, this is 80 meters, and it's really rough during about lunchtime. If you've been a ham for any amount of time, you'll know that 80 meters is pretty dead during the daytime. But that's the band we're using right now to test it. Okay, let's go to our favorite band, which would be 40 meters. Okay, notice, before we go, notice that we tune to the high end of the signal. You go to signal, 0 beat, and then the other side. On lower sideband, it's always the high side that you tune in. See, a little bit overloaded, turn down the RF gain. Okay, let's go to 40 meters, and it's the opposite. Upper sideband is actually tuned on the lower part of the signal. So let's go to 20 meters and tune up. And let's see, full clockwise position on the selectivity, and turn her up, the RF gain. We'll turn off the automatic noise limiter. Now I'm going to turn up the RF gain full blast so you can hear it flat top or distort. Of course, I can't find anybody now doing that. Okay. Turn down the RF gain.